call to order this meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, June 1st, 2021. Roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
At this time, will you all please rise with me as Director Hunt leads us in prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, thank you for your grace. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for bringing us together tonight to work on behalf of this good city. And thank you, Lord, as we end this Memorial Day weekend. I just want to thank you for the servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Thank you also for those who organized an event in their honor yesterday. And thank you for those who continue to fight for our freedom. I pray that you will be with us as we make decisions.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask that anyone that has an electronic device, please silence that. Thank you. At this time, it's public input. The public may address the Board of Directors regarding any item on the consent agenda or any city business not listed on the board's regular agenda. If you would like to speak, please come to the podium, give us your name, address, and you will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone here?
J.W. Smith, 503 Macy Court, Siloam Springs. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it. I want to talk to the directors and to the city manager on a couple of items that I know probably has been in through your minds or through the minds of your constituents that you've been asked. You know, back on June the 22nd, we were up at Oak Hill, and I think a couple of your members up there assisted us. We had the members of the Siloam Springs High School football team helping us, and we had families also. And we put out over 800 flags on Oak Hill. Y'all got any idea how many graves we missed?
You missed the World War I veteran.
We missed a total of 3 that we're aware of. That's pretty good out of over 800. You know, we have a sign up there asking families to get their graves marked or let us know. And on our paperwork, we show where the graves are at. But if there's no marker out there, we have no way of knowing. One of those graves we missed was a member who ran our junior shooter program. And I'll bet you if a post member had been there, we wouldn't have missed it. But he doesn't have a marker on his grave. So, and that's up to the families to put those markers on there. Another thing I want to make everybody aware of is Highway 412 flags. Yes, we're responsible for putting those up and maintaining them. We order 400 flags per year. And the cost after shipping and taxes, and by the way, if shipping is $60, Arkansas is the only state that I know of that we pay sales tax on that $60 shipping. And there was a bill at the legislature this year, but it never got out of committee to change that. Not only do we pay sales tax on the product, but we pay it on the shipping also. We replace all those flags every 6 months. We do it in April. We do it again in September. And the good Lord, with producing weather this year, has really been rough on us. We've had to replace lots and lots of poles, and then we patrol that. So I just want to bring you up to speed, let you know where we're at on Highway 412. And just as a side point, I don't know how much, I got all kinds of time left. we haven't got this year's figures, but 2 years ago, the American Legion family contributed over 70,000 volunteer hours within the Siloam community. Just a point, it is my favorite person who is no longer with us, used to say when he finished, "Y'all got any questions?" Compliments of Don Conda for those that don't know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JW. Is there anyone else? And by the way, JW, we do acknowledge and appreciate all of that you all do. Those flags are great, and I know everyone that comes through town comments about them, so thank you. Yes, sir. The next item is our consent agenda. Workshop minutes, May 18th, 2021. Regular meeting minutes, May 18, 2021. Dedication of utility easements, 2900 block of East Highway 412. Dedication of utility easements, 14300 block Cozy Corners Road. Dedication of utility easements, 1800 block Don Hill Road. Resolution 20-21, Significant Development Permit, Michael Cox, 22100 block of Highway 16, Rock Hill Foods Packaging and Distribution Facility. And on this particular resolution, directors, I need to make note that there is a Scrivener's error. On page 20 in your packet is where that would appear. The fourth bullet point under the general summary, staff has, as such, the applicant has advised staff that there will be adverse impacts. That should be will not be. So make note of that, please, so you'll know that that is will not. Next item is G, Resolution 2121, Special Use Development Permit, Chad Dilday, 305 South Mount Olive Street. Resolution 2221, Final Plat Development Permit, Sweet Home Edition, 2300 block of North Mount Olive Street. Resolution 2321, Final Plat Development Permit, Highway School Edition, 2900 block of Sherry Whitlock Drive. And Resolution 2421, Institute of Museum and Library Services Grant, American Release Plan Act, Salem Springs Public Library. Directors, do you have any comments? Any of the items that you would like to have withdrawn from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
letter G.
Madam Mayor, item F for a clarification on one of the drawings.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with items G and F removed? Yes. G and F.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Is there anyone from the audience that wants to comment?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. Thank you, Renee.
My name is BJ Phillips. I'm with Burris Architecture, and I'm here to represent item F on the resolution. I was just curious for a little bit of clarification as to why that was requested to be pulled.
We will address that separately
Okay.
here in just a few minutes.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Motion is approved. So, Director Allen, first we'll go to you. Item G, the Resolution 2121, the Special Use Development Permit for 305 South Mount Olive. You have a question about that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I have been concerned about this property for a long, long time because of the dangerous proximity to the edge and the underbore of the wall. The creek has dug up underneath that wall, and with the parking that looks like it's going to be built, it just always concerned me, the weight on this, and I went by to see it, and I was surprised there's already a foundation with plumbing and everything. Did this, I'm just curious, did this already get approved for building? Or, because I don't know why we're doing this now if it's been approved already. I got
Yes.
a little confused.
I believe it has, but Ben, can you answer that for him, please?
And I speak because I've seen this go through a lot of ownership, and it's been an ugly scab for a long time, and so I've just always been concerned because of the small size of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. I'll be happy to answer that question. Yes, it was approved as a regular building permit for a single-family home. And then subsequent to the approval of that building permit, it came to light that the request was to do that as a short-term rental, which is why this is before the board this evening, and specifically for the land use, not for the construction of the dwelling.
So it did get approved for what's there now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve item G, Resolution 2121, Special Use Development Permit?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve, I think I'm on the wrong one here, resolution number 21-21, authorizing a special use development permit for 305 South Mount Olive Street.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. The next item is F. Director Sappington.
Yes, I just needed some clarifications on one of the drawings, the page after the topographical, the elevations. And I don't care who addresses it. I just wanted to know, it looked like there was a drain across the back, and I didn't know if that was for runoff. It was on the west side of the drawing.
Is Justin here? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Justin Bland, City Engineer.
27.
27, okay. I'm not sure if these are the same numbers, but
It's the one right after the I believe, elevations and topographical.
is it similar to this picture here?
The next, not that one. Okay, you can see it on that one. See the diagonal? Would you explain that, please?
Sure. So the western portion of the side is going to be a detention basin, but because the slope of the ground is so flat, we require what we call a concrete trickle channel to go across that, and that just kind of helps set the grade. And if they need to do maintenance, they can always go back and dig it out to that grade. So that's just a concrete trickle channel. It'll be 2 feet wide. It'll be flush with the ground, but that just kind of helps set the grade and allows it to not sediment in as easily, you might say.
Okay, is it going to drain to the north?
Yes, it'll drain to the northwest corner of that site, yes.
Okay, and that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to make a comment or no? Okay.
It was real simple.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2021 Significant Development Permit for 22100 block of Highway 16?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen, Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next on our regularly scheduled items, resolutions. Resolution 25-21, refinancing of debt service, Siloam Springs Public Facilities Board, John Brown University, refunding revenue bonds, Series 2015. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Public Facilities Board, through the City of Siloam Springs and JBU, was created back in 1989, and it was created for the purposes of financing and supporting facilities for post-secondary education operated by JBU. At that time, bonds were used and issued to finance construction and renovation and equipping capital improvements at JBU. And those original bonds were refinanced in 2009 and then refinanced again in 2015. And what the Public Facilities Board is requesting is approval from the city to refinance again in order to save interest rates. There's currently low interest rates in the bond market, and that would save JBU on the debt service based on the 2015 bond refinancing. So this series 2021A and 2021B bonds would all be the responsibility of JBU. There's no responsibility at the city. The city's not on any financial hook for the repaying of any bonds. It is simply a process that has to go through the Public Facilities Board in order to give JBU the right to refinance. Ms. Kim Hadley with JBU is here to answer any questions, and also their bond counsel, Gordon Wilburn with Kutak Rock, is here also if you have questions of that nature. So, Madam Mayor, staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that has a comment or question on this resolution? If there is not, directors? There being none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 25-21?
So moved.
Director Allen and Carol, you want to
Second.
make the second? We have a motion and second to approve. Roll call.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Next, ordinances. First ordinance is 21-08. This will be the first reading, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C2 and GI, the 2900 block of Sherry Whitlock Drive. And Ben, I think this is you.
It is. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So yes, for your consideration this evening is a rezoning occurring at the 2900 block of Sherry Whitlock Drive. This is just south of the First Assembly of God Church. And this is also the same property that you just approved as a final plat that was on the consent agenda. The proposal before you is to rezone this to C2 and to GI. And here you see the site plan with the corresponding zones, the C2 for the western 2/3 and GI for the retained in the eastern 1/3. The GI portion is planned for a future church. We don't have any known uses for the C2 sections. Here you see the future land use map. We really like it in these situations when it's a hand-in-glove fit. And here you see the blue representing public facility. That would be GI would be most appropriate for that, and the red, of course, for your commercials. And finally, you're looking at the site. This is looking to the north. Staff and Planning Commission are recommending approval. This rezoning will need to be approved before the related final plat is filed for record. And with that, we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or comment for ordinance 21-08? There being none, directors? Yes.
Motion to place ordinance number 21-08 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen, Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes. Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 21-08, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to C2 and GI, property located in the 2900 block of Sherry Whitlock Drive.
Next is ordinance 21-09. This will be the first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to R2, 1803 Don Hill Road. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor and Board. So you're considering another rezoning request, as the mayor stated, at 1803 Don Hill Road. This is from A1 to R2, single family. This is east of the First Baptist Church and north of Copperleaf Drive. Here is the related site plan. Staff has not received any plans for construction on this property. However, there has been a lot split application submitted that will split off the southern part of this area, so it accesses only onto Copperleaf Drive. The future land use map is pretty straightforward, showing this as a medium density family, and the R2 zone, which is requested, fits within that designation. The future land use map will likely be, or future land use rather, will likely be a single family home. And here is the site, which also includes the farmhouse and outbuildings that are on out to the left. Staff and the Planning Commission are in support of the proposed zoning, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone in the audience that has a comment or question about 21-09? Directors? Do I have a motion to place ordinance 21-09 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 21-09, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to R2, property located at 1803 Don Hill Road.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 21-010, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from I-2 to C2, 3550 Highway 412 East. And Ben, once more, please.
Yes. Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Board. So for your last rezoning, you're looking at the property at 3550 Highway 412 East. And this is going from I-2, which is the light industrial, to C2 commercial. Here you see the site plan. The rezoning is only occurring on the piece that's circled in red. The remainder of that lot will be retained as I-2. The structure shown here, which is an old abandoned home, will be demolished upon development of the property. Here you see the future land use map. This area is planned in the red shading for future commercial, and the proposed zoning to commercial fits within the map's guidance. And finally, this slide shows you the site looking to the north. Simon Sager Avenue will carry on to the south, and the survey for this, there's a related survey that does show the future right-of-way for that street. Staff is recommending approval with no needed conditions, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 21-10? Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, Charles Ashley, excuse me, with CEI Engineering, 431 Asbeth Drive, Centerton, Arkansas, 72719. I just wanted to address the board and you, Madam Mayor. Staff has been excellent to work with and really appreciate that. My client did ask if it would be possible to combine the second and third reading. If that would be permissible by the board, we'd appreciate that. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience other than this gentleman that has Mr. Ashley? Thank you. Directors, what is your pleasure on the request?
On the request?
Yes. To place this ordinance on its, oh, I'm sorry. No.
If there's no
I'm sorry. Let's first ask, does anyone have a comment or question on this ordinance? There being none, do we need to place it on its first reading and then ask about a second and third, or do we need to do that now?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
my recommendation would be to place it on its first reading, and then in 2 weeks you can consider, when it'll be scheduled for its second reading, you can consider at that time whether or not to include the third reading.
Thank you.
And for purposes, if possible, I would recommend that you attend that meeting and make that request again, if that's okay.
Thank you. So do I have a motion to approve ordinance 21-10, placing it on its, I'm sorry, let's start over. Do I have a motion to place ordinance 21-10 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 21-10, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from I-2 to C2, property located at 3550 Highway 412 East.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is staff reports. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the board. If we can get the PowerPoint up. There we are. So today I'm presenting a staff report on the history of tattoo business regulations in Siloam Springs. So we did some digging, and from our research, we found that the term was regulated in the city code with an update that occurred in an ordinance in 2001. Prior to this, we looked at the earlier codes, and the term tattoo didn't appear in the code, so it showed up in 2001. Tattoo businesses were added to the description for use units 22 for adult businesses. When this happened, these businesses were regulated in the same way as an adult business would be regulated in terms of the zoning. So just a definition, a primer on the adult business. This is defined as one with 50% or over with their goods or services that are age restricted by either federal, state, or city laws. However, this does not count towards alcohol businesses as they're regulated elsewhere in the code. Since the 2001 code change, staff is aware of one instance in 2013 when someone wanted to open up a tattoo business in a commercial zone on Highway 412. And at that time, that was permitted through the prohibited use permit. And these permits are no longer offered by the city, but back then we did offer those. And when that did come to the board, it died for lack of a motion. So taking a deeper dive into the regulations, as I mentioned, the use unit 22 uses, including the tattooing businesses, are only permitted by right in that I-1 zone. This map displays for you the locations in town where the I-1 zone is located. This is primarily north of Gates, Web Wheel, and Lazy Boy, and the vicinity of the airport, and also various locations along the KCS rail line and the old Franklin Electric building. So this map includes the same I-1 zones from the previous slide, but it also now adds the C2 zones. This was done to illustrate where tattooing businesses could be allowed if permitted as a special use in the C2 zones. As you can see, this opens up many more properties along Highway 412, Sherry Licklock Drive, East Main Street, and Progress Avenue. In this map, we are again adding another zone from the previous map. Here you can see the C1 zone added in the yellow shading, which is the primary zone in the downtown, as well as a few other sites around Simmons corporate office and the James Butt ball fields. This is to give you an idea what is included if C1 and C2 were added together. And then finally, this map shows you the last commercial zone. That's the C1A. And this is shown in the orange color and includes a few more sites along Mount Olive, Holly Street, as well as various locations scattered along the main commercial corridors. And with that, that concludes staff's presentation on the tattoo businesses as they're being regulated. And we stand ready for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, Director Allen.
Ben, what is C1A again?
It's a light commercial zone.
Light commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ben. Marla?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm the one that asked for this, and I had a property owner contact me that they had someone wanting to rent one of their vacant buildings close to downtown off of Wright Street. And I told them that I would bring it up and get the background information. From reading on it, it looks like we're a little outdated and we need to kind of decide where we're going. I've been looking at some of the other cities, and because they have to be restricted so much by health conditions, the industrial is not a good place to put this type of business because of their health restrictions. And I also saw that one of our businesses in town on Mount Olive Street is registered as, I forget what the secondary term was to the tattoo parlor, but where you can do body piercings. And so I think that we've gone from different values to what we have now. The people that want to have this done are not per se like they were perceived back in the early 2000s. There's no stigma with it. It's more of an art and not a thing where you just show your tough guy or a biker, or, you know, that's not there anymore. Not that kind of biker.
I also have a tattoo.
Oh, okay, and he has.
I ride bicycles.
Okay, so, well, you know, and I think we just need to look at this. I see it more of an art establishment. The young lady wanting to do this was a Siloam graduate. Her parents raised her in this community. She wants to come back here. And, okay, well, it's hard to tell with the mask. But, you know, I think that if we could let her speak, if it'd be okay to hear what she wants and ask questions, because we need to know what we can do to help her and what's her avenue to take.
Perhaps before we have her speak to us, maybe let's kind of get a feel for the board, where we would like to go with this. We would like to have more information brought back to the board for us to perhaps put something on the agenda. And then at that time, we can get more feedback and kind of see the direction that we would like to take. So directors, do you have feedback? Yes, Director Allen.
Madam Mayor, I was on the board in 2001 when this was approved. I would like to have staff give us a map as if we've received today, but that actually shows the current locations of the tattoo parlors that are in Siloam. I called it a parlor, tattoo shop, whatever it is. I agree with Marla, things have changed a lot from 2001. That doesn't mean that we necessarily have to change everything for one certain business, but it's something to consider, and I'd just like to know where are they now in relation to the current code. And I got a little confused. Marla, were you saying there is one that's not in the proper consideration now, the proper area?
When I searched for tattoo parlors in Arkansas, there was one establishment mentioned here in town that had offered body piercings and some other things that was on the site where the tattoo license shows up. It was kind of misleading, and we need some clarification there too. I don't know if they'll let you speak, but we have a place in town that does body piercings,
But not tattoos.
but not tattoos.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Philip.
Director Allen,
Yes.
I don't know that we could create such a map because I'm not sure that there is a tattoo business officially in Siloam Springs. I was just looking at Ben. I don't think that, I'm not aware of one. And so I just want to go on the record. I don't think we could create, the map would have,
Okay.
wouldn't have any color.
I didn't know.
Now, there could be a business that, Ben, correct me again, would you go back and put the definition of the adult business per the code up there? Because it relates to a certain percentage of the business, I think.
But it does, yeah.
50% of their business is limited to the age restrictions. So I'm not sure what business is offering body piercings, but if it's let's call it a body piercing could be getting your ear pierced, and that would occur, likely at a nail salon that's not an adult business, so it's not restricted from that standpoint. But I just wanted to go on the record that I don't think we could create that map that you're looking for.
Okay. I wasn't aware. I didn't know if when this was put in effect, there were 3 in the city. And the reason it was discussed and regulated was because the state of Oklahoma, and I'm just giving you some background, the state of Oklahoma had literally regulated it out of existence. The whole state said there will not be any more new tattoo parlors in the state of Oklahoma. And I know it's hard to believe, but there were huge billboards in Tulsa that said, want a tattoo? Drive to Siloam Springs, Arkansas. And that was the reputation we were beginning to get because we had 2 more applications as soon as those billboards went up. We already had 3, and we just saw, my gosh, we're going to have everybody in Oklahoma wanting to start a business here because of the amount of not allowing it in the state of Oklahoma. So that was the impetus for it. And of course, if there's not any now, then it doesn't really apply. And I don't know, maybe Oklahoma's changed that. That was 2000 or 2001, so.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, yes, Director Smiley.
Oh, I do know, well, I don't know if it's current right now, but it used to be if you wanted a tattoo or even body piercings, you had to go to a medical office. And I remember when all of this was taking place, and we were having some concerns about the number that were coming into town or applying for, and they were all along 412. Those buildings now, some of them have blown down. They're not there anymore.
But when you have billboards saying,
Right.
go to Siloam.
And I do understand that because Oklahoma did have some very strict laws for tattooing and body piercing. And I do know the one establishment that you're talking about for body piercing, did you say on Mount Olive? It is a beauty and nail salon. So so they probably have more than 50% is adults. I just know that you are right, times have changed, attitudes have changed. I'm just not sure I know where we need to go. I need to look at these. I didn't look at these maps extremely close.
They confused me.
So I'm just not sure. But I would like to have more information, and maybe putting it on the agenda is the right thing to do. I think that's the rest of the board's decision, the majority.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think that we need to find out what we need to do to help this young lady start the process of wanting to put her business in Siloam. And if that means that staff needs to come back again with more information, but I still think that we should probably hear her in relation to this tonight if we could. It may be where staff doesn't have to do any more work if what she wants to do is something that we're not interested in. I don't know. But I just know that told her to be prepared tonight to speak on her behalf.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mindy.
I'm very happy that this young lady, hello, is here to speak to us tonight, and I welcome what she has to say. I do think ultimately we need to make a decision based on what we feel like is best for the city and not one particular business owner. So I think we do need to take that into consideration. Again, I wish you the best with whatever you decide to do, but I do think I personally feel like it needs to be a decision based on what we feel like will work best for the entire city. I'm comfortable with the zoning the way it is now. When I look at these maps, I see quite a bit of purple, which indicates to me that there are several different options for this sort of business already there without us having to do anything. If we did decide to offer the special use permit in C2, that does expand the options a little bit. I'm not comfortable myself probably taking it as far to special use in C1, but I feel like when I look at these maps, I see a lot of opportunities even in the industrial the way it is now. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm open to having the staff look into it more. I'm comfortable with leaving it as it is.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to get a little something in about change. I find it entertaining. We're speaking of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's got more pot shops and you can shake a stick at. So I'm thinking they've changed a little bit. Since being on the board, what have we done that's caused change? Well, it rhymes with beer, it rhymes with microbreweries, and we actually did a zoning map for medical cannabis that will never get a dispensary because if we ever got one, we want to be able to tax it. It's all about money. So we have a new small business that wants to come into town, and I don't know why we can't put this under a special use permit, bring it up to the agenda, and give that person the opportunity to show us what kind of shop we're talking about. And I think we've all mentioned it. It is different. I will state that I hear people that are opposed, but there's not a campus in town, which would be JBU, that you won't find a student that a large percentage of there have a tattoo. Scripture, something memory, a loss of a friend. It's gone from art to memory to memorials. It's just a different groove than what we were talking about before. And we do a good job at regulating things. If you want to come to Siloam and smile, it's going to cost you. That's what we talk about. So when you come here to eat, sleep, spend the night, there's a tax on everything. So it's hard to turn down small business that is providing revenue for us to tax, because you know we're going to tax them, and it fills in vacant buildings. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have to say, Brad, if you're taking any comments that I'm saying as being against this.
No, I'm not.
I am completely neutral. I have no yay or nay or feelings until I hear more information, and I'd love to hear from the requester. But I will also say in 2001, we never, ever dreamt that Benton County would go wet, much less that there would be marijuana legalized anywhere in the United States. So, yes, it is a very different world today. But I would welcome hearing anything on what is going to be proposed or has been brainstormed.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to reiterate that the industrial zoning is not proper because of the health mandates that these shops have to go through.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I am not against it either. And I just looked up Oklahoma's statute for tattoo, and It's age related. It's now but they also state that the cities can regulate it in different areas of how they see fit, but they don't outlaw it altogether. And body piercing is totally different because there are two different licenses, and I believe that's the way the state of Arkansas is as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
to address what Director Smiley said, that's where I read that the tattoo and body piercing are lumped in to one category. Then the cities have separated them out from what I've read.
Marla, is that for the state of Arkansas or just for the whole state? They're together?
Yeah, you can look up the licensing for tattoo parlors and body piercing, and they're in one genre.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I agree with Brad. I think taking it to a special use, I'm not completely familiar with all the special uses, but what would that consist of, Ben? If it went to a special use, do they still look at the school, how many schools are around it and stuff like that? I mean, what all is going to be?
You're correct. It would look higher level at the context of the neighborhood rather than just the bulk area standards. It would require a code update, obviously, to be able to make that happen. But
Even with the special use?
yes, so right now it's not allowed by special use in any zone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it would require a code change to do that.
But if you do a code change, it doesn't change that it's required C2, that you could have a C2 instead of a industrial. It's
No,
just saying you can have a special
it would be
use.
above and beyond what we have now, I'd imagine.
I'm sorry, but excuse me. So today, the use is only allowed if 50% or more of the business is limited to age restrictions, then it's only allowed in the industrial park. To do anything else, there's only two options. Have a business where less than 50% of the business is tattooing, and I think you could do that. That would be an option, because then it wouldn't fall under the adult business, right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you'd check that is by sales if something were questioned. And then other than that, operating in the industrial park, it will require a code amendment no matter what, because it's not permitted in any way, shape, or form in any other zoning district. So what I think I hear, if I may be so bold, is that you would be willing to consider an ordinance to allow it as possibly a special use in at least the C2 zone. Is that?
Not just C2.
I would say that that's what I've heard is more C2 than anything else. So
Ben, don't
that can
sit
be.
down yet.
You could potentially discuss that when that ordinance is brought forward. But that's just making my notes about who said what and what I think the direction I'm hearing is. That's where I think what I've heard. So.
Well, I need to say one more thing. I pulled up the Arkansas Department of Health, where it's listed current body art establishments, which puts the body piercing and tattoos in the same classification. And it says the current business on Mount Olive. And then a couple lines below it, it talks about the tattoo parlor in Gentry. And it's all in the same chart. And it's listed at current body art establishment. And it's going to be hard to bring something up when it's separately. If you want to do piercing as one and tattoo as one, which the Department of Health considers it body art. And that's their licensing.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Ben, you may need to get back up again. I got another question. Or Administrator Patterson, in terms of, we were talking about adult business and everything, what is the regulation on the businesses like Creekside Tap Room that just serve alcohol? What designation is it?
It falls in a different use unit. So there's a use unit 22 that's just the adult businesses. I believe, I don't have the code right in front of me, but I believe it's one of the later units, I think maybe 23 or 24, that deals specifically with alcohol businesses. So it's handled separately.
It regulated on zoning,
Yes, so all the use units are within the zoning code, right?
and of course, it would be under adult business. I was just curious, because I wasn't here when all that was done, so I'm still learning.
Director Allen, if I may, the adult business definition excludes any liquor business.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So the way it was defined in code has been stated earlier, 50% sales is age restricted, but it exempts alcoholic beverages. So it's not any of whether it's the liquor store, whether it's Creekside Tap Room, any of the businesses that include alcohol sales greater than 50% are not considered adult businesses.
Yes.
Director Allen, could I make a motion or a recommendation that we bring this back to the next board meeting and make a code amendment? It sounds like we're behind on the code, number one, and we need to bring this forward and with a specific map to include what Director Sabbington has requested and remove it out of the industrial. And it sounds like to me that would fall in line with health concerns on the other. Body piercing, even though we think it's just an ear, they don't do only ears. They do areas of the ear and areas other than the ear, which have some their own health concerns, and these people have to go to school and get educated. And so the biggest thing on tattooing, from my experience, and I'm not a salty one at it, but it is they need a clean environment, and they go through extreme precautions in this day and age, and they are regulated. And I would request we address this at the next meeting and potentially be able to expedite this small business. Thank you.
Philip?
Madam Mayor, Director Burns, code amendments to the zoning code will have to go to the Planning Commission first for public hearings. So I guess I don't have any qualms of bringing something back here for your consideration, but you won't be able to take action on it until it goes through the Planning Commission process. So based on at least what I heard most recently is there may be some discussion about whether it's C2 or C1 in a special use. So would you, my question is this, we could draft something up, not put it in an ordinance, but draft some language up and bring it back on the 15th for further discussion, or we could draft up and we could do that and continue to send it on to the Planning Commission and try to fast track it to the Planning Commission. Whatever that ordinance is, when it gets to here, you have the right to amend it if you don't like C1 or you like C2 or you don't like C2 or C1, whatever the case is, and you could amend that based on the fly. But so that's I don't know if I'm making myself clear. My question is, do you want us to come back with some draft language before we take it to the Planning Commission so you can have some discussion on that?
I would like to see it fast-tracked, where you bring some back to us while we also can get it to the planning and zoning as quick as we can.
Okay, I don't know that I can fast track it because I have to be very clear. Well, I can figure that out. I'll do what we can do. So we'll be back on the 15th with another staff report to give you at least a shot at some draft language.
Thank you. Yes.
This lady did come. Is it possible that we can hear from her? Just briefly? I would like to hear from her.
Okay. Can you kind of give us a real brief overview of what you are
Less than 3
considering?
minutes.
Hello, I'm Jessica Fletcher. I live at 2412 Southwest Choctaw Street in Bentonville. So I grew up in Siloam. this is my hometown, and it's, sorry. Tattooing is a more recent passion of mine. I've done art since I was a little kid, but the goal for our tattoo shop, our mission statement is safe tattoos by soft people. I know it's kind of silly, but the concept of tattoo shops is kind of a hearty atmosphere typically of, but our goal is to have a safe space for people to feel comfortable getting art done on them, because we care about them and we care about making their art beautiful and them feeling comfortable in this at where they're at. My friend Hannah and I are the ones who open the shop. So our vision statement is, our goal is to provide a safe, welcome, inclusive, and community-centered space for clients and artists to create body art. We want clients to feel like they are heard and help design the tattoos that they envision. As locals and JBU graduates, we care for Siloam Springs and want to be involved with all the local events. We will host local art and jewelry to enrich our shop's atmosphere and provide opportunities for NWA artists. So it's not just about doing tattoos for us. We really hope to help the art community and stuff, because we go through a lot to be able to get our licenses and be designated as safe tattoo artists. We go through 6 months of training with a certain set amount of hours that we're required to fulfill. And we just, we love what we do. I can answer some of the questions that you had earlier too, of where you were talking about the, with body piercing and tattooing, it is considered under the same blanket umbrella of body art establishment rules. They are 2 separate licenses that you have to, that you are required to complete. You can either do tattooing or you can do body piercing, but the health department is going to be overviewing those as the same thing. So any shop that requires to either or both will be regulated by the health department for the Arkansas Board of Body Art Directors. So I have the health guidelines here too, if
I think
if you have any
probably
questions.
that's something they'll bring back to us.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Are
Thank
you
you.
going to be doing body piercing too, or just tattoo?
I will be just doing tattooing, but we're hoping to do piercing as well and hire a piercer along with our tattoo artists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just reiterate again, my daughter's covered in tattoos. I'm not against tattoos. But when she was 15, she went to a place in Springdale that did body piercing, and they were very trained, had been around a long time. And if we hadn't taken her to the ER that night, she'd have bled to death, according to the doctor. So for a belly button piercing. So it is, every day, no matter what you do, driving down the road is dangerous. So you just always have to be aware of wherever you go that people are trained properly. And I'm as I said earlier, completely neutral. I'm not pro, con, nothing. I'm open-minded about all of this.
Thank you, Director Allen. Okay, then that will be coming back to us on the 15th. Next item then is Philip. This is still staff reports. That is you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So there's been a lot of discussion over the last year and a half about the possibility of building a ADA fishing pier at City Lake. We've been looking into this. We originally wanted to have some discussions with JBU construction class and see if there was an opportunity to create some sort of partnership with JBU. The sort of the 3 things that I wanted to bring to the board's attention as it relates to this about the construction, the design, and the timing. And we have a recommendation on the first 2, and we'll need some feedback from the board on the last issue. But the idea originally was to put out a pier, a fishing pier, looks like a big T, there at the park, installing it between those two central peninsulas, or I call them the fingers, that people walk out there and fish from. The boat, if you can call it a boat ramp, is just to the left of that yellow emblem there representing the T fishing pier. We talked at one time about putting it at the end of one of those fingers, but the need to have an ADA accessible path out there, it created more of a problem than not when we started looking at that possibility. So then we started looking at what type of fishing pier would be the best option. And we met with JBU a few weeks ago. It is possible that they could construct the platform of a standing fishing pier. Their construction class could build that wooden platform, the decking, and the railing. They do not have the capability of creating what I call the superstructure. Those poles that are holding that standing pier up would have to likely hire a separate contractor to come out and sink those poles into the lake bed. And then we would also need an engineer and possibly an architect to design something to be built. And while there's not a significant large amount of ADA regulations as it relates to fishing piers, we would want to make sure that it was at least stamped by a design professional, that it met those ADA regulations. Through all that, seems like a process that's going to take a number of steps. We started looking at a turnkey process, a turnkey project. And the turnkey project is really floating piers, and that's what you see on the right of that screen. They're made generally of metal. The whole thing floats. It has a hinge where it connects at the bank, a hinge where the gangway connects to the pier. As the water level goes up and down, that thing can move, which is one advantage. If you remember in 2019 when we had the big flood at City Lake, the water not only flowed over the spillway but flowed over the dam, and at that previous picture, that parking lot was probably under 4 to 6 feet of water. So any dock or pier like is standing pier would likely be underwater too, where this one would float. So there's some advantages, we believe, to the metal fishing pier, the metal floating pier. During our review of looking at these floating piers, we found another design that we thought had merit and should be given full consideration, and that is an idea to combine an ADA fishing pier with an adaptive or ADA kayak launch. And what you see there is a fishing pier on the bottom, and on the top is strictly a standalone kayak launch. And Kevin, if you could, if you would click on, there you go, that would be fine. So this is a short video of an individual using.
Many people have asked us, what is an adaptive kayak launch, and what does it look like? We'll be happy to explain. The first thing that you will notice as you get onto the gangway is that there is a low or flush threshold going from the walking path onto the gangway of the kayak launch. While ADA requirements do not apply to floating docks and other marine structures, many of the best practices taken from ADA design are integrated into the adaptive kayak launch. These include a modest slope in the gangway down to the floating dock, which matches the 112 ADA ramp pitch. It also includes a 36-inch handrail that runs continuously around the gangway, as well as a floating dock area. Running adjacent and to the right of the gangway is the boat slide. The boat slide is constructed of composite decking. This ensures that the boat eases its way down into the water without being scratched. As you transition from the gangway onto the floating structure of the adaptive kayak launch, you will notice the stability of the floating platform. Great care was taken in the selection, size, and location of all flotation. This is imperative as adaptive athletes need a solid platform to maintain their balance. When in the center of the floating structure, you will notice that there is ample room, providing additional space for equipment or to accommodate the turning radius of a wheelchair. The bench and transition steps is in the middle of the floating structure and works its way down to the kayak. The transition bench is made out of aluminum, which allows for the user to slide along each step. At the end of each step is a small drop down, which can be facilitated by the use of the overhead handrail located just above the center of the bench and runs the entire length down to the water. As the user gets to the last step next to the kayak, a plank slides out and over the top of the kayak and extends to the other floating structure. The floating structure on the other side of the kayak provides additional stabilization as the user slides down the plank and over the top of the cockpit. Facilitating the user's movement into or out of the cockpit is the roll cage just above. There are multiple bars and hand straps available for one to use. As the kayaker slips into the seat, the kayak is supported by underwater saddles. These saddles are made of composite lumber that hold the boat steady. Once the user is safely in his boat, he reaches for his paddle and works his way along the handrails towards open water. These are the basic features of an adaptive kayak launch. Each project does vary based on location, habitat, marine conditions, and the needs of local users. Give us a call to discuss your adaptive kayak launch today.
So thank you, Kevin. And if you could, I'd like to show the other, yes, this one right here. This one shows an individual by himself using the same adaptive kayak launch with no help from anyone. We've sped it up for brevity's sake. When I first saw it, I thought, well, you have to have all those individuals out there helping. And then when I found this video, I thought this one was very interesting. It's a little different design you can see on that slide right there. But this individual was able to, transport his kayak down the ramp, was able to move himself down the steps and get in and out of his kayak without any help from anybody. He'll get one.
Or what you're likely to see with people that are ADA.
Yes. My friend who doesn't live here that is a paraplegic, he doesn't want any help if he can do it himself. And so I was very curious at the same time. He paddles really fast, but I was very curious at the same time about being able to, how they would access out of it.
That's wonderful.
So it doesn't have any sound. I don't know what the young man says. Thank you, Kevin. If you go back to the slides. Again, we in our search, we came across that, and it just felt, from my standpoint, the opportunity to have not only an ADA fishing pier, but an ADA, or what they call an adaptive kayak launch. One of the things that I believe that we are always talking about at the staff level, when you're outside of Northwest Arkansas and they talk about Northwest Arkansas, they generally talk about Fayetteville to Bentonville. And I believe Siloam Springs has to set itself apart and be unique from Fayetteville and Bentonville. And I was hoping I could be here tonight to say, if you were supportive of this idea, this would be the first and only adaptive kayak launch in the state of Arkansas. But I found out this weekend that there is another one on Lake Leatherwood in Eureka Springs. And I'll show you an example of that here in just a minute. I went to this company, Board Safe, and I asked them to give me a design of a had they ever built a combo, and they've never really done a combo fishing pier and kayak launch. So what you see up here is basically a 16 by 35, I think it is, or 32 hole pier, but 16 by 25 of that is really the fishing pier, which would have high and low rails around it, right? So that it could, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, you could cozy up to one of the lower rails and fish over it. And then on the far right, you've got a 16 by 8 kayak launch. It's got 2 gangways, 20 foot. They might actually need to be a little longer, maybe 25 feet. And what's not included in this whole cost, you can see them there. They're referenced right at the end of the 2 bulkheads. We'd have to have somebody build the bulkheads, which are concrete embankment, where the gangway would attach to the land, and then obviously we have to build that up with a slight ramp so that you got a ADA path to get there and then start going down to the pier. The idea, I went ahead and put this slide back in here. The idea is roughly at the same location there at the parking lot and in between the 2 fingers. That's not to scale by any means. This is the image that the company sent me. And then I found one other company, and this is the image of, on the right, the similar one to Lake Leatherwood. I went to Lake Leatherwood yesterday to see what it looks like. I've never been there. No offense to the lake, was very mossy and lots of algae growing. But the idea that I saw when I first saw this, and I watched a video, the city of Austin has one on the right, is they really, as an individual, they needed help. They couldn't maneuver that by themselves like the one on the left with all the overhead bars. And I thought that was very interesting, because if you have, I guess, upper body strength, the one on the right, you might be able to reach back and push yourself up on that plank that reaches out. But there's no opportunity to grab something and pull yourself up. So my idea, at least, was if you were supportive of this, the only company that I can find doing anything like the one on the left is Board Safe. It would likely be a sole source. The other thing, in researching Board Safe, this company, those handrails above it were designed by individuals with disabilities. They were the ones who suggested they add those so that they could, you saw that young man pulling himself up as he got off the plank, lowering himself in the kayak, pulling himself up out of the kayak, and for that matter, pulling himself as he slid up those stairs. So again, yes, sir.
Say that other picture was from the one that didn't have the overhead.
It's I don't know where I found it online, and then I did some research and I called the city of Austin, Texas, and they have one, and then I went to Lake Leatherwood yesterday, and it's exactly like the one at Lake Leatherwood. So
that one on the
that
right
one on
is
the
like
left,
the
yeah,
one.
it's I would not, if I can go back, the one on the right is similar to the one at Lake Leatherwood in Eureka Springs. I mean, you can see it's not in the water. You have to, it's got wheels on it. I looked at it and said, you're really going to have to pull your kayak across it because it's not floating. The one on the left, you can see it's got those saddles underneath it. So you're in the water, your kayak is being sort of held a little bit, but it's already in the water. So pulling yourself out of there is very simple. It wouldn't take a lot of upper body strength to do it.
With that, and
Please
I'm sorry, it's composite wood on those saddle things on the water, down in the
Yes.
water, and I'm just concerned in terms of length of, because I know anything, even composite wood, doesn't last that long underwater. So that may be your really only maintenance thing you would have. on that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're right, and under that scenario, it looks like composite wood on the decking, which
Yeah.
would be the same if we built the wooden deck. We would use composite wood. So the idea, at least from staff's perspective, is that we would believe that a turnkey project is in the best interest of the city, rather than trying to get JBU and another contractor and an engineer and an architect all together and try to work together and to do a project like that. We also believe that the floating pier is the better solution in case we get another big flood at City Lake. That might have been a true 1 in 100 year flood, but it's likely that something could potentially occur again. That, I got a quote from that company for that 20-foot gangway, 16 by 32 fishing pier with the kayak launch of roughly about $75,000. Now, adding additional 5 feet maybe to the gangways to push it out there a little bit further away so the fishing gets a little better will increase costs. So you're probably talking $80,000 plus maybe another 5, let's say, for the bulkhead and building up of a trail. I asked staff to give me a ballpark figure on the cost of material for a wooden static fishing pier, and we estimated some additional cost, and it's cheaper. There's no doubt about it. It's probably $30,000, but that's not including the cost of composite wood, which we would want. So that raises the cost. And again, I'm ballparking here. I don't know if it's $5,000 or $10,000, but generally speaking, you could build the wooden pier under assumption for probably half of what you could do the metal floating fishing pier and kayak launch. So I want to be honest with you about the difference in cost.
Philip, is there a possibility of grants being issued because it's ADA?
I'm getting there.
Getting to that, okay.
The only other question then is timing other than grants. The fishing pier, the metal fishing pier and all that, designing it, building it, bringing it, and installing it would take probably 12 to 15 weeks. If you wanted to proceed with that this year, I don't think you would be able to get grants. You would need to amend the budget and go forward. If you wanted us to put money, if you like the idea, the concept, and wanted us to put money in the budget for next year, I did find some opportunities for grants that the grant deadline comes at the end of August. They would begin their review for an outdoor recreation grant through the state in October, November, and they would not make any award announcements until sometime after the first of the year. So as you see up there, I didn't highlight the private contractor, the floating pier. I highlighted timing because it's really the question of timing. And if you want to go forward sooner rather than later, I don't think there's an opportunity to go after grants. If you want to go after grants, then it's a next year project. No doubt about that. The grant would be a 50-50 grant, at least for I think you might have a chance with the standalone wooden standing pier with the adaptive kayak launch. I think you have a better chance at a grant if we can make that work. Beyond that, that's my presentation on an ADA fishing pier, and I would just like some feedback to kind of get a feel for what you're thinking, and if you have a clear direction of what you'd like how you would like staff to proceed.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Philip, would there be a possibility of us doing it this year? I'm sorry, I'm not talking to the mic. Doing it this year by adjusting the budget, but still applying for the grant that could come to repay us for half of it?
On the grant that I found through, I can double check, but I'm almost positive that the grant that I found through the outdoor recreation grant, any work done before the grant is awarded is not going to be part of that. So I don't, this isn't if you remember the electric charging station was a rebate. You go build it and then apply for it and you get rebated for a certain percentage of your cost. This was clearly a 50-50 grant where you have to go propose it. We would have to go down to Little Rock and do a dog and pony show on what we're wanting to do. There's a number of steps we'd have to go through to even apply for the grant. But I don't believe, at least in what I found to date, that that's an option, sir.
Yes. Sure.
This makes me so happy. Makes my heart happy. I like both of them. If we could only do the standing pier, I would be happy with that. But the floating pier, I think offers so much more for people that are disabled. And we do have some possibilities for kayaking for other people that we don't have for handicapped people. And I'm wondering if there's any way to partner with anybody in the community that would help with that floating pier. I think even if you don't do the kayak part, I think the floating pier is better. I've seen static piers when there's flooding, and it doesn't take much to overwhelm them sometimes. I've watched my brother-in-law replace his pier, his dock, so many times because it's stationary. That's my viewpoint, and I'm glad that I'm going to mention Bob Holloway because this was his idea, and I'm glad that he did that because I think this will benefit so many people.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Mindy?
I am excited about this too, and I appreciate that you took the idea and ran with it and even added to it. I think if we are going to do something like this, we ought to go ahead and think long term. And it sounds to me like the floating pier is going to be a better long term solution with possibly less maintenance than a standing pier would be. As far as timing is concerned, sure, it would be great if we could get help with the cost. I don't have a strong preference on whether or not we adjust the budget now or wait until next year. I do think no matter when we put it in, it's going to be used. So I know that doesn't really help you with timing, but whatever the other board members want, I would be fine with.
Madam Mayor, I wasn't quite done. I did want to state, Philip, I'm amazed of what you found. I'm blown away, especially because it was designed by people who deal with this every day. The overhead rails, I don't know a single person who uses a wheelchair that is not got upper body strength that would use that. And the other one doesn't even make any sense, the one that's at Eureka. So by far, that's the best. Now, I'll just be upfront and honest. As soon as you said, well, what about combining kayak? I'm like, oh gosh, you're going to upset the fishermen by saying, well, now you're putting boating on our fishing. This thing's so big, they wouldn't even get in each other's way. So I'm impressed because especially that they have never done it before and that they responded and got you a great looking project there. As big as it is, you got the fishermen can use it, you got the kayak people who can use it, and it would be something that would be a feather in our cap to be one of the few in the state that provides an outdoor access sporting for disabled. I'm really impressed. I will just remind the board, last board meeting, we adjusted the budget by $715,000 for a side path, and this is maybe a little over 10% of that, maybe 12 to 15%. And I think we should do what we got to do to get this done as soon as possible. I think it's an amazing project, and as Carol said, this is touching. It's like really speaks to the heart. There's a lot of people that would not just use the fishing part, which we've heard about since last year, but you may get some people interested in kayaking that have never thought about it, disabled individuals. So I think it's great.
Director Allen, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and his comment to me was people with disabilities wouldn't necessarily be the only ones to use it. He said, my 80-year-old father, can't get in and out of a kayak anymore, but he loves to kayak. So the ability to use that, I mean, he's not classified as disabled, but to be able to get in and out of there that way, I think is an opportunity. The other thing that I mean, I saw it too, and I appreciate what you said because I was sort of blown away also. It was sort of, well, we got a kayak park, we're building another kayak park. I've seen kayakers out there at the lake. I've seen stand-up paddleboard. We all know Special Olympics. I don't know if there's an opportunity to do some sort of Special Olympic kayak race, but I think there's an opportunity that you know, in the case of Lake Leatherwood, there's no promotion of that in any way, shape, or form. And I think if the city were to do this, that promoting it and putting us out there, again, as I stated earlier, it sort of sets ourselves apart from the other cities that are normally thought of in Northwest Arkansas. Thank you.
And I think something to do with Special Olympics was done probably 20 years out there. So, yes, I mean, you can reach out and draw an awful lot of different. Gold star, Philip, thank you. That was awesome.
Thank
I'm
you,
really
David.
impressed.
Thank you. Lisa?
I want to say thank you to Bob Holloway for coming up with the idea of having something out there with individuals with disability and the on the police cars. My nephew has cerebral palsy, and we're always limited when we go somewhere. And this opens up a whole new sport for him if he decides to go this route. And I like that we already have a lot of kayaking here, and it just brings more opportunity for individuals. Until you experience limitations, you don't know how much to appreciate something like this. And so, thank you, Philip. I love this idea.
Thank you, Lisa. Marla or Brad? Yes.
Marla, please, by all means.
Thumbs up.
Only one? Okay, 2 thumbs up.
I think it's excellent, and I don't know if I'd use the kayak part, but I would use the fishing part, unless I was dared. But I think it's wonderful, and yes, it's true about the upper body strength. You know, you've got to have that in there. The rails, I think that's key to help them lift themselves in and out. Wonderful.
I will say that this ties in directly into connectivity and quality of life because that's the direction this whole site has been going. I'm a patient person when it comes to chasing grants, but I have no problem amending the budget. I think what it's going to take out there, I'm a frequent user out there. I'm a SUP guy, I'm a kayak guy. It's a great place to catch the sunset. It's a great place to catch the sunrise. I think the location of that pier needs to be thought. There's boat activity there, and I want to give the person using that the ability to have good fishing, and I think that might interfere with that. So when you throw that up, it's right up here to the side, and so what they normally do is they'll come in off there, and if they've got a trailer, because they can only use a trolling motor, the boats hang around in that area there, so it's some caution. And it's also, it's a pretty good trash collector place, and so it's something to consider is just looking at that whole site and maybe looking more to the west. There's a smaller, if you go back to the larger picture, if you go back, you have the pier to your left, and if you go to the next one, that pier gets flooded a lot, and it would be a great place to, the water's deeper, number one, for fishing, and so we're looking at a multi-use, giving that person the full experience out there, but that's tit for tat, just something to consider. And I think the number is a little bit higher from my perspective, and I would be comfortable going up to 100,000 because I think the approach for ADA compliancy to meet wet weather and things of that, and I think this is a great area to start looking at using porous materials. IRWP might be one of those outlets also, but anything to help that, and I also would encourage us to reach out to veteran groups out there, because I know there's a lot of activity in the veteran community, and there's a lot of private money available for that. Thank you.
So, and just to respond on that, one of the things that we talked staff talked about when we were out there looking at this is the park staff would like to improve those fingers that are on the left to make them more usable, because they've kind of eroded away. So I'm not sure we can put it, but we'll look at it. One of the things that I spoke to the gentleman who designs these is to take that gangway that's on the left side and move it a little further to the right a little bit. And I don't know if it needs to go further out there for fishing, but we'll look at all those opportunities. And probably what I'll do is ask the gentleman they're out of Pennsylvania, but they just finished one of these, at least the adaptive kayak launch in Shawnee, Oklahoma. So my goal is to go over there and really look at it hands-on first. And at least what I've heard today is 2 would be supportive of a budget amendment, 1 sort of either way, but what I would do, at least if we were going to go forward with this, is I don't have any problem in knocking on some doors and see if we couldn't drum up some partnerships without formally going through a grant process, a grant application process, so we could try to say, let's do it sooner rather than later. So I see heads nodding, and so I think I've got the message that I need to hear. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to echo what Brad said, is that was the other thing I was going to say, Philip, is let's just consult as much as we got to make sure we put it in the right spot. Because Brad's right. It's deeper on the left side, and it may be better for fishing over there. And they do put the boats in right where he was talking about, and you don't want to be interfering with the ones that already are used to using it. If you go to the left, it may be better. But you may want to bring this fella from Board Safe and have him go physically walk out there and look at it and give us his opinion.
And I appreciate Director Burns, because chances are that's probably what I would ask for is a $100,000 budget amendment. I would have to bring the contract back to you regardless. But part of that argument is to say, come down, let's walk through it, let's see exactly what it is. When I was there talking to staff, talking to some fishermen, this area is great fishing. We talked about, what if we did this, where would you put it? They said that, from a fishing standpoint, that's great fishing too. We don't want to interfere with the boat and the ability to do that, but piers are there, and boats can maneuver around them at times. So we'll take all that under consideration, and we'll hopefully be back maybe late July with a whole package for your consideration. So thank you.
Thank you, Philip.
I think you're just enjoying doing the research. That's what I got to go over to Owasso or what. Let me cast a pole while I'm here.
I got a fly rod, so yeah.
Thanks again,
Administrator's report and April financials.
Yes, you have the financials in your packet. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself or Christina. For the administrator's report, I have three big items, I guess, to talk about. You've got examples of the latest information from ACHI about COVID active cases per 1,000 individuals. For Benton County, it dropped from 0.85 active cases per 1,000 on May 23rd to 0.5 on May 31st. And in Washington County, dropped from 0.47 active cases per 1,000 to 0.39. So at least through May 23rd, the numbers were coming down. Again, the latest numbers I heard from Municipal League today is that we're curious to see if they're going to creep back up because of the long weekend. Daily active cases per 1,000 in the Northwest Arkansas region. Again, they dropped from May 23rd of 0.64 to 0.43. So all those are positive signs. I do still believe that there's some question of low numbers of tests, and so that creates a low percentage when we look at those numbers. The interesting thing I found was the percentages of individuals fully immunized in the Northwest region of Arkansas. It actually dropped by 1% from May 12th to May 23rd, but they changed the age range. It went from 16 plus on May the 12th, and then by May 23rd, they were now measuring 12 plus years of age. So larger number of people. But the point of that is, 31, 32%, however you want to round it up, are fully immunized in Northwest Arkansas. So I still think from a public safety standpoint, more people should be immunized, more people should get the vaccination if we're ever going to get rid of this. But the governor's statewide public declaration of an emergency expired on May 30th. Ours is set to expire at the end of day tomorrow. It doesn't really mean anything for the public, but it means for staff. After tomorrow on Thursday, I will notify staff that the policies that we have enacted under that public health emergency are now rescinded, so staff will not be required to wear a mask. I will still be encouraging them to do so when they can't social distance, and most specifically encouraging those who did not get a vaccination to wear a mask when they're not social distancing. So unless there's any different direction from the board, on June the 15th, we'll bring all the chairs back in. We'll have a full capacity boardroom, and likely that staff will be back up there at your desk with you. So that's the plan as it stands right now. I will probably still wear a mask just because I think it's the right thing to do when I can't social distance, and everybody else will be up to your personal choices. This past Saturday night, we had the first concert in over a year at Chautauqua Amphitheater at Memorial Park. It was great to be outside. It was great to see families enjoying themselves. If you didn't get a chance, I would encourage you to go online and just watch a video of the Cleverleys. They were a clever band, and they were a lot of fun to listen to. We had Holland counted over 800 people, close to probably 850 people at the concert, and it went very well. I saw a couple of things where we need to maybe do some improvements on one little traffic issue. And then I also think I didn't see it the first year when we opened the Chautauqua Amphitheater, and we didn't have concerts there last year. But what I noticed this past concert was, I think in 2022 we're gonna try to find some money in the budget to put some more spotlights at the top of the stage, so that when a performer is playing, you can see the performer. I could see them all night long, but I couldn't always tell who was singing, which one was the lead guitarist. That actually was a mandolin, so he was easy to spot. But there's more lighting that needs to be there. And we had one complaint that I heard today about kids in the background up the hill playing and rolling down the hill and being loud, which is what kids do when they play. So I'm thinking also we may need to look at some scaffolding or something to raise the speaker level up higher so we can get it up further up the hillside. But those are things I think that we just are learning as we go forward with concerts at the amphitheater. And then the good news, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, but after the last accident at the pond at Main Street and 412, you talked about a guardrail. I told you at that time that maybe having you adopt a resolution would push the highway department far enough to get that, and it looks like we're going to get permission to build a guardrail. Highway department's not going to fund it, but I'm expecting a letter, hopefully before the end of this week or early next week, that they have declared their right-of-way to only be 24 feet from the white line, from the outer white line, I believe it is, and anything outside of that, we can do what we want to do. So you have a picture in your package. I didn't put it in the overhead slide because it's pretty simple, whether or not we put a guardrail just around sort of the one side facing 412 to prevent the cars from going in. When we had a discussion, there was some comments about encircling the whole pond in a guardrail. In doing more research, there is an issue with the idea of the cable rail that you see on the highways now. You see them in the middle of the median. When you head east and go to Tawnytown, what you see is a guardrail made out of cables. That works well in a very straight and a very level area. You can curve it, but it has to have a large radius. It can't curve on sharp curves. So the really only option we have is back to the standard at least today per the highway department, back to the standard metal guardrail. And then the option is twofold, whether or not we have just I forget what it's called, excuse me, the weathered steel, which is what every guardrail looks like on the highway, or we could possibly powder coat that. So you have a range from, if we just do the option A, it would probably range from about $10,000 to $20,000 difference between the steel versus the powder coated steel. If we do the whole pond, then we're talking about $20,000 for the weathered steel and about $50,000 for the powder coated steel. I will tell you that those are quotes that we got from a company who said we won't bid the job because the area is too small for our equipment. So whenever we get a bid to actually do the work, the price is going to go up, and prices are so volatile right now that quote was only good for like 10 days because they don't know how the price is going to change. So I'm only telling you that because I don't want you to hold me and say we want to do it all and we want to do powder coating, and I come back and say it's $75,000. But more importantly today, at least, we're likely to get permission from the highway department to do something there, which is, I think, the right thing to do. I think putting it down on the slope so that it's off the highway, so it's not as obtrusive. And then it's a question for the board when we get a little bit further along, whether or not you want to encircle the whole thing or whether you want to start with just that outer edge or that edge that's closest to 412. Madam Mayor, that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. So we will now go on to the director's reports. Before I start, I want to go back to the American Legion and our VFW just to say a thank you for the memorial that you all did Monday. It was very well done, and I really appreciate the fact that we got to honor those who have served our country and paid that ultimate sacrifice. Thank you very much. And with that, we will start with Director Rissler.
I want to say thank you to the American Legion. I took my niece and my daughter out, and we did the flags at the cemetery. And my grandfather was a veteran, my brother's a veteran, and my niece that I brought, her dad was a veteran. And she was so proud the rest of the day. She wanted to tell everybody that she decorated the headstones. So we have a new tradition that we're going to be doing in our family, and that's putting flags on the headstones. Saturday at what time? 10 o'clock. Saturday at 10, take down the flags. And I said this earlier, I want to say it again because it is in my notes. Thank you to Bob Holloway for the idea for the ADA pier. I know most of us are affected by, have somebody in our family that would love to be able to use that and to be able to kayak when that ability is so limited, especially here where we are located. And to have it in Northwest Arkansas and available is pretty exciting. And so that was and I hope everybody's enjoying this cold weather in June. So I hope it warms up soon.
Thank you. Director Smiley.
Well, I too thank the American Legion and the VFW for the ceremony and also for putting out the flags. I also thank you for your update. It's nice to know where you are, and we appreciate the flags along 412. That really makes Siloam stand out to a lot of the people, the traffic that goes by. I know we had a good turnout for the Cleverleys, and I think Saturday the Northwest Arkansas Symphony is also playing. So I was not here this weekend to see some of these things, but I know we had a really good turnout. I also want to say that I do believe the library is starting their children's programs. One starts on the 8th and one starts on the 7th, I believe. No, preschool starts on the 9th and the younger one starts on the 8th. There's also a summer reading program for all children. And because we are having weather some weather. I would recommend that you all sign up for the alert system that the city provides. With that, I thank you.
Carol, Director Hunt.
I will echo the thank you for your being here with the report, and I also want to thank, I thanked him personally, but thank Jerry Cavness for coming at the last meeting to let us know about the events that you all were hosting. I enjoyed putting the flags out as well, and I'll try to be there on Saturday to help take them up, and then the service was just a really nice service on Monday, so I appreciated that. Was not in town either this weekend, so I missed the event at Memorial Park, but according to social media, it was a hit. Saw lots of very positive comments about it. People were ready to get back out, see people, enjoy being around people, and I understand the entertainment was just really good too. I just want to make a quick comment about people coming to the meetings. We had quite a few here last time. We had quite a few here today, and I really appreciate when people do attend our meetings, and I want to hear from people, and I know sometimes it ends up making the meetings a little bit long, and sometimes it feels like we're talking or listening more than we really need, but I just feel like when people are here, we need to give them every opportunity to speak, even if it means we're going to be here a little bit longer, and so I really appreciate when people are here. Appreciated hearing from the young lady that wants to start the tattoo parlor in town. Think there was some perception that there was some concern about that. I'm not concerned myself. I can go either way. I just do think, for me personally, I think whatever decision we need to make needs to be based on what is helpful for the whole city, and hopefully that will be helpful for business owners as well. Definitely we want to welcome business owners in. Ultimately, I think whatever happens needs to be good for the entire city. So I think that's it. Director Allen?
I want to echo what Mindy just said on the allowing the public to speak more often. I appreciate it. I still think there's room for improvement on being public friendly. At our last board meeting, because it was such a topical issue during the open hearing, the Airbnb thing came up, and thanks to Philip's hard work on it, we were able to have question and answer, which is not always available, and I thought it was very appropriate. And I thought a lot of info got spread out there, and I appreciate it a lot. I want to thank the KIA Memorial Committee for not just setting up that memorial so many years ago, but just the professionalism of running the ceremony the other morning. Yesterday morning, it was really amazing to just, I got to tell you, just hearing our mayor speak, she blew everybody, every mayor for the last 20 years out of the water on speaking, and I got to congratulate you, Judy. You hit all the, I was just very impressed and proud of you, and I congratulate you, and I thank you for speaking for the city so well. And I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin for being here and speaking and really speaking from the heart about important topics of keeping America great. And our two state representatives, Delia Hawk and Robin Lundstrom, were there as well. And the people, I mean, Jerry Cavness and Frank Lee and JW and Mike Butler and Ron, all these guys that are veterans and are so involved in the American Legion and the VFW and the DAV. We can't ever pay these guys back, folks. And the least we do is give them props and give them the honor they deserve, and I appreciate what they do. I'm really, I got to tell you, as excited as I could be about this fishing pier, Philip, the ADA fishing pier. I got to hand it to Bob Holloway. He brought it up on Facebook. He didn't let go. He didn't let up. He sent letters. He sent emails to the board and to Philip. And to add the potential of not just a great ADA fishing pier, but the potential of ADA kayaking and put a feather in the historical, hey, look what we're doing in Siloam Springs is a huge plus. And I'm really impressed, and I think it's a great thing for our city to look forward to. I only have one question on the powder coat versus the regular steel. I wasn't sure what powder coat does or what it enhances or anything. But I'm in full support of the whole pond, just simply because I've always felt it was a little dangerous for kids to be there. And I think it might have possibly helped prevent our employee from getting hurt if it was all the way around. I don't know, but I'm just saying that is a potential, and I would support all the way around. If you wanted to say something about powder coat, I don't know.
Well, the powder coating just takes that. I mean, if you think about it, you've seen probably chain link fencing that's dipped in some sort of plastic where it's not the metal look. You can have it, you can powder coat it and be whatever color you want rather than just a metal guardrail. So I agree that I think what I'm going to ask staff to do is look at what we have to do on the highway side and then see if there's some other opportunity to do something that's still decorative but maybe not as industrial looking on the non-highway side. But I don't know how that's going to look together. So we're gonna have some ideas batted around before we get the final word from RDOT.
Yeah, we want it to look still attractive and everything, but I appreciate you researching it and doing everything you have. But again, Madam Mayor, awesome job yesterday. I was really excited. It was a good turnout. It was a great ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Director Burns.
Yeah, I took my mother up to the Memorial Day service, and American Legion of BFW is I pay my dues. I'm not an active member. JW's been eyeing me all night. I help when I can, but that's another example of folks that are involved and just are involved at a high level that make things work great. But we need to also remember I've got a lot of veteran friends, and they don't make those Memorial Day services. They go other places, and so when we're there, the dog and pony shows are neat, and that's just military talk. But I went down to Highway 10 after, and I saw a quarter on a W-2 vet that I grew up with as a young kid, and a quarter means they were there when the soldier passed away. So if you get a chance, look at what penny, nickels, and dimes mean on headstones. I did reach out to the city communicator and harped on a little bit about using the word Chautauqua Amphitheater. And the reason I did that is it's real simple. I just believe in the potential of that site. I believe in the potential of that site and the historical meaning behind that movement and how it faded away, and now how we look at it, it's mostly entertainment, but I just see a lot of potential, and I think the city administrator's on point. I had a gentleman that has a long beard that has a company, and we had a chat, and he went and looked down at the soundboard, and I think the city's on target. If we lift that up a little bit with some lighting, and the acoustics of that site is a natural bowl. That to watch that develop over the next couple of years is going to be fantastic. I think we all got one of these. It's Monarch City, USA. And it kind of ties in with City Lake as we get excited about a fantastic project. We've got some sites out there, and they all take maintenance, but we've got some milkweed out there, and the monarchs do pass throughout City Lake. We have an active Audubon Society also out there. And so along with the fishing beer, there's a couple of projects that we need to button up out there at that site for those groups also. So we need to keep that in mind, but I'm super excited about the City Lake. I'm a big fan of Option A, and just from a safety standpoint, how soon we can get that up so we can ease some tension out there in the public and maybe work on the cosmetics of the other. And the interesting thing about change in Siloam is a lot of our changes come from JBU students. I don't know what they're doing out there at JBU. I never attended, but they are stirring the minds. So I appreciate folks that come to Siloam, raised here, get educated here, and want to come back here and open business. I think it's very, very exciting. And I'll leave with one last controversial thing for us to consider going into next year is Sunday sales tax and on alcohol, Sunday alcohol sales. And I know it's going to pierce some hearts as I say it out loud. Oklahoma, Gentry, Tawnytown. As we look at spending money, as we look at doing maintenance on projects, it's just a progression of change. If you don't participate in that, then you can still go to Walmart. But it's something we need to look at to increase sales tax. Thank you.
Brad, were you saying those other places you mentioned they do?
Entry past theirs. I talked to their. I don't talk to anybody about the old fire chief, old Vester up there. We saw him at. Well, one of our old fire chiefs passed away, David, and we went to his funeral. And I didn't work underneath David, but you know, it's what you do. And they're starting to see some numbers, but their numbers will not be our numbers. And I just think we need to just look at, you know, sales from a sales tax standpoint. That's all it is, just money.
They just recently passed theirs, Gentry did, right?
So you said Gentry and Tawnytown and Oklahoma does it too? Okay.
Thank you, Brad. Director Sappington.
My thoughts are all scattered over this sheet of paper, so I'm going to try to make some sense of it. I do want to thank the veterans for putting the program together yesterday. I wish my grandkids could have went with me, but they would have been the ones rolling down the hill probably. You know, and I was thinking back when I was younger, was I really taught the difference between what Veterans Day is or Memorial Day is? And that kind of hit home with me. And then when the Lieutenant Governor was talking about honor and teach and pray, I mean, it was spot on. You know, it's been a long time since I've sat in a classroom, but I was educated yesterday. No longer than I was there. It was a very good program. So I appreciate that, even though I don't care too much for you, JW. I like the program, okay. All right, thanks. Just want to make that noted. I want to thank staff for going ahead and doing the tattoo research. I knew it's going to be kind of controversial, and like Brad says, it's change. And I just think that anything we can do to support our economy, we need to do. Oh, and also yesterday, I think it was the Blizzard family that was there, and I think that was wonderful to honor them and to acknowledge that they gave a price to, and it was their loved one. To Detention Ponds. I call them Detention Ponds, retention ponds. You know, it goes with my school background, but driving around and seeing the ones that were putting the fences around and everything, it looks nice, except for the weeds. So that concerns me is, you know, we've got the safety of encircling the pond, keeping people out, but it keeps out those that need to tend it and keep the weeds down, which in turn goes to my next thing, which is, do we have a mosquito plan? Because the mosquitoes are going to be rampant. And I don't know if we still fog, if it's even illegal to do that or what. I know it's like you grab your kids, you run in the house for 20 minutes when they're spraying because it'll cause them to be crazy. It's probably what happened to us. But anyway, I just, you know, think that we need to look into that, and I think it would be good for staff to kind of get something out for the public to know if there's going to be a schedule of spraying. And one other thing I'd like to see is I frequent Burger King for breakfast for my workers, and they've got a terrible drainage problem that comes from the property adjacent to them, and it just floods them. And I don't know if there's anything that we could do to encourage the property next door to be looked at, or why we miss this, but it's just terrible. And if we continue to build and improve that area, we just need to look into the drainage situation over there. And I am going to look up the pennies, nickels, and dimes on headstones. So I think that's pretty interesting. And with that, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. There being none, we are adjourned.